All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us now is one of the best legal minds in the business and, of course, one of the greatest authors out there, Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, National Review, PJ Media, all over the place, best-selling author. Hello, sir.
Steve, how are you?
It's always great to talk to you, and I got to tell you, you will give the definitive answer to me anyway. Your answer will be definitive to me because I'm so sick of the left weighing in with this, and it's disturbing me. We're talking about abuse of power. We're talking about Obama. We're talking about what he's done. Let's stick specifically to Obamacare. We don't have to go really to other laws to make our points, I don't think. And you know, the president again delaying another mandate this time till 2016, and doing it, you know, with the companies with employees with a certain amount. But he went for, well, let me ask you that first. The left is saying, the administration is saying, when asked, that this is a tax. The Treasury Department and the IRS are involved here. So it's the Treasury Department that are changing these dates, that are making these changes to the set established law. Do you buy that? Is that a legitimate legal argument for doing all this?
No, the president runs the Treasury Department. The president runs the executive branch. This is, Obama's been pulling this routine from the beginning. I think Rush Limbaugh calls it the Limbaugh theorem, but basically he's objectified his administration such that he is kind of a passenger or a spectator to what it does, as if he were not the person pulling the strings and in charge of it. But the president runs the Treasury Department, or the Treasury, I guess the Treasury Department. It's not really an agency. It's bigger than that. It's a department. And the Treasury has no authority to change statutes that are drafted by Congress. In fact, there is a provision, Steve, of the Internal Revenue Code which allows the Treasury Department to pass rules and regulations that help enforce statutes of Congress. But there's none that allows them to
change it.
to change them or undermine statutes of Congress, which is what this one does.
All right, so what could be done about this? Before we get to it, and this is, you wrote about something today at National Review that we talked about, or maybe you wrote about this a couple of days ago that we talked about on this show a couple of days ago in passing, but I can't wait to talk about the making you swear to the IRS under threat of penalty. But before that, what could be done about this lawlessness by the president? Would it have to come from Congress? Could it be a citizen who would have standing to go to the courts, or both?
It could be both. They're not mutually exclusive. The problem with citizen standing, the short answer is yes. Anybody who is legally harmed by Obama's policies can try to bring a lawsuit. And in fact, I don't think you'd have to wait until you were actually harmed, where you actually had to either apply or not apply for this waiver. I think you could say that, and I'm not supposed to be in the business of giving legal advice over the radio, so take this for what it's worth. It's not legal advice, it's my opinion. But I think that if a competent business person said, look, I'm afraid now I have a legitimate business decision to make. I have 104 employees, but we're thinking about retrenching down to 95, which gets me under 100. And I'm afraid that the administration's going to come after me over whether I had legitimate business reasons to do it or not, or whether I was being guided by Obamacare. And moreover, in my mind, Obamacare is a tax consequence, and that's certainly something I'm entitled to take into account in making business decisions.
And what you're alluding to now, so you're saying if that's the case, then a person would have standing and
Right.
could go to court. And what you're alluding to is what I briefly alluded to, and you wrote about the other day, and that is the president's waiver to the waiver, if you will. I think you phrased it that way, or illegal waiver to the illegal waiver. They're now going to say, they're saying to businesses, you can't lay people off to get under the threshold of Obamacare, and you're going to have to swear under penalty of perjury to the IRS that you're not laying people off for that reason, or you could go to jail or be fined. I mean, where did this come from? Where does this? How could he even make this up?
Well, it's the next logical thing. If you think you're a dictator and you're allowed to make the laws up, then why can't you make up the criminal laws too as you go along?
I mean, this isn't in Obamacare, right? There's nothing in Obamacare that says a company can't, lay off people to get down to the limit. So he just created this now?
Well, first of all, Steve, let's go back to what you said about, the illegality on top of illegality. The waiver is not in Obamacare. What Obamacare says is that as of actually 2 years ago, this mandate was supposed to be applied to all the businesses that Congress applied it to in the statute. So he had no authority to waive that in the first place, much less does he have authority to impose a criminal penalty on people who try to qualify for the waiver but don't do it in a way that's pleasing to him.
I mean, I've never heard anything like this in my life. I mean, how I think you the headline of your piece said Obama adds irrationality to lawlessness while threatening prosecution. I mean, I have heard this mentioned in the media, zero, zilch, nada, in the mainstream media, which I watch, in preparation for this show. I want to see what they're doing. I mean, nobody seems bothered, concerned. But what's worse is I haven't heard, my goodness, something like this, where he's threatening businesses that if they make a business decision, they could go to be penalized, go to jail, they have to swear to the IRS. And where's the Republican leadership, at least, coming forward and saying, hey, America, look what's going on here. We can't have this.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. But I guess you have muted Republican leadership making that argument, because when you make that argument, then what the public is apt to say, certainly what I say, is, okay, then what are you going to do about it? And
the only thing they could do about it is impeach the guy, right?
Well, no, they can also start slashing his budget. And, this is another important point to make. I've heard some people say, they can cut off money for enforcement of Obamacare, all this illegal enforcement. And we've only scratched the surface of his illegal execution of the Obamacare statute. But my point is, Congress is not limited in this tit-for-tat kind of way that, if the president does something illegal, the Congress can react only by cutting off money for the illegality. Congress can cut off all of Obama's money. They can start slashing the executive budget, and I think they should. I think that, look, once you get to the point where the executive branch becomes this dangerous because the president is flouting his main obligation under our Constitution, which is to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, then you have to cut off his money in order to bring him to heel.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. That or impeach the guy, which they couldn't convict now. But, the Republicans need to make a case either way, whichever route they decide to go, if they decide to go any route.
You're right, Steve, and that is mutually enforcing if you think about it. It's one thing to say, and I've said this myself, I said it to you, it doesn't make any sense to start down the impeachment road unless there is a will in the American public to remove their president. We don't remove our president over, mundane things,
right,
or even one or two pretty serious things. What we're talking about when we're talking about removing a president is someone who's become so beyond the pale that it's not worthy to have him in that position any longer.
A standard issue leftist dictator is how you put it in the piece?
Well, that's what I think happens when you start making up the law, and now you're going to start making up the criminal law and threatening people with prosecution if they don't follow your policy proclivities.
It is outrageous. But, Andy, I do want to touch on one more subject with you. And even if they take these business owners and I don't know, make this quote-unquote crime a felony and they get convicted and they're put in jail, thrown in jail, or maybe not even convicted, Obama just throws them in jail because he wants to. When they come out, Eric Holder wants everybody to vote. Here's what Eric Holder had to say the other day, yesterday, cut 23.
In many states, felony disenfranchisement laws are still on the books. And the current scope of these policies is not only too significant to ignore, it is also too unjust to tolerate. These laws deserve to be not only reconsidered, but repealed. And so today, I call upon state leaders and other elected officials across this country to pass clear, and consistent reforms to restore the voting rights of all who have served their terms in prison or jail, completed their parole or probation, and paid their fines.
Now, let me ask you this. Is that all he could do, or could Obama and or him, I mean, can Obama, I guess, issue some kind of executive order in regard to this, or is that just out of his reach?
No, he probably thinks nothing is out of his reach, but in point of fact, in our system, that's a state criminal justice matter, and I suppose that, you know, while Holder, let's put it this way, the reason Holder was he's powerless to do it himself.
Okay.
However, him doing it as the Attorney General has this sort of undertone of extortion, like, do it or else I'm going to file the kind of frivolous lawsuits I've filed against other states and other matters to try to make them do what we'd like them to do.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I couldn't agree with you more. Andy, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you so much, as always.
Thanks, Steve. Good to talk to you.
My pleasure. Andy McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen, the great Andy McCarthy. Read him at National Review and PJ Media, and read his great books. And I tell you, this is a very frightening time. Very frightening time. Where's the leadership of the Republican Party? Where are you guys? Come on. I mean, a few, like Paul Ryan and Rand Paul, have come out, and Ted Cruz has led the charge. I shouldn't neglect him, about the lawlessness of this administration. But my goodness, making up a crime, writing the criminal code, that if you fire an employee to get under the limit for Obamacare, it's illegal, and you got to swear you're not doing that to the IRS? You got to swear under oath? He's making this up. All right. Hey, somewhere, the former dictator, Hugo Chavez, who's dead, is looking up from way down, and he's saying, boy, that Obama, he's something, isn't he? On the Steve, we're coming back with Dr. David Samadi on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV.
The Steve Malzberg Show.